Hello one and all, my name is John Clare, this is John's Dark Art, and as always you are very welcome. Now today's piece I want to talk about is a piece I like to call Yorick. Now if I bring it up for you here now, as you can see it's a fairly simple drawing of a skull, and in trying to find a name for the piece I just thought to myself, what better name than the most famous skull in all theatrical history? So I named it Yorick. So now that you've had a look at it, what we're going to do now is we're going to go into the walkthrough. I'm going to show you how I did it and why I did it and all that sort of stuff, and I'm going to do that now. Okay, so now here we are, we're in Procreate, and here's Yorick looking dead-eyed off to one side. So what we'll do, as I always do at this point of the walkthrough, I'm going to go into canvas information, and we'll go into statistics. And total strokes made 3,537, track time 12 hours and 55 minutes. So relatively speaking, for me at least, bit of a quick one. So what we'll do, if we go into our time-lapse replay now, hell is empty, all the devils are here. I mean, again, if you've watched a few of these videos, you'll see that quote cropping up quite a lot. Mainly because at the time, I really liked the quote, and I still do. So, and it's quite apt that this is like a Shakespearean piece or inspired by Shakespeare to a degree. So, here we are. Now, essentially, look, if I'm going to be honest, this is basically a practice drawing. It's one of those ones where, like, I pick a reference and I just draw it as near as I can. And the reason for that is because it just keeps my skills sharp. I think one of the skills in art is observation. You need to be able to observe what it is that you're trying to depict, what it is that you're trying to recreate, because a lot of art is recreation. A lot of art is, yes, there is imagination involved, there's storytelling involved, but at the same time, what you're doing is you're trying to recreate something. So I'm trying to recreate what I basically referenced. But by the same token, yeah, I'm keeping my skills sharp, because the thing is, like, as I said before, a lot of what I do is a lot of my shading is scribbling, a very kind of unique form of hatching, because I haven't really seen anybody shade in the way that I shade or hatch in the way that I hatch. A lot of people, with a lot of artists, I've noticed, I'm not trying to say my way is better than anyone else's, it's just something that I feel seems to be unique to me because I haven't seen it anywhere else yet. But I tend to kind of build up my time with very kind of rapid hatching, very kind of scribbly, loose hatching. Whereas a lot of other artists, what they choose to do is they choose to be very deliberate, very measured. And both are equally cool. Both of them are equally viable as styles. But also the one thing I really like is I like my drawings looking like drawings. I'm not trying to make a photographic representation of what I'm observing. I want it to look like a drawing. I want it to look like a very good drawing, granted, but I still want it to look like a drawing. And there's certain things, like I said, in terms of observation, like you may notice it, especially in the eyes, the way that even though the eye sockets are dark, because they're like hollow objects, there's still light getting in and there's still light bouncing around inside. So rather than absolutely blacking them out, I've chosen to pick out those highlights and to pick out those areas where light is still being reflected. Also, where areas of light where the light is bouncing back. So if you notice, like underneath if we go right in here, you see underneath the eye ridge there, you can see that I've kind of lightened up the shading underneath the eye ridge. That's because light in the original image, there's light bouncing onto that eye ridge, onto that part of the bone. So, and what that does is, it's little things like that that elevate your drawings, is by picking out that information and depicting that information as best you can, because essentially that's what it is. It's information, it's visual information. So, and it's the same like on the other side here, like I'm picking out all these areas, but yes, there's like very dark areas, especially say on the back of the jaw here, but then there's still light getting in between, like where the cheekbone goes back around to the skull. Like there's still light getting in that gap, so therefore it's being picked up by a part of the jawbone, but then the rest of it is cast into shadow because there's no light there. And that's what a lot of these drawings, I mean, I think that's where I think I do quite well with some of my drawings in terms of, like, especially my drawings of skulls. It's like the use of light. You know, being able to know where the light is falling and where the shadows are being cast. You know, it's tougher to do it in a more imaginative sense. Like if you're drawing more from your imagination than you are from reference, it's very difficult. Not impossible. I mean, if you're good at what you're doing, and and you've been doing it for a long enough time, you can learn those skills. You can learn where the light falls. You take that into consideration when you start your drawing. But it's one of the hardest things to learn. Like, drawing form is easy, relatively speaking. You should be able to pick that up fairly quickly, no matter where you start as an artist. But it's the more advanced things, like uses of negative space. Like, for instance, well, it's not really shown in this particular drawing because there is no real negative space here. But usage of negative space, well, if you like, say where the cheekbone comes down and where it meets the upper jaw. There isn't just shapes being made by the object, but also in the space that the object occupies, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I mean, like, it's a basic drawing. It's, you know, it's like I said, it's a practice drawing. It's something I wanted to do to keep my skills sharp, to make sure that I'm not, well, as the old saying goes, if you don't use it, you lose it. You know, you have to keep iterating. You have to keep practicing. You have to keep doing, you know. And I'm not saying you need to draw every day of the week or anything like that. I mean, there's a lot of advice that you may hear. Oh, you need to draw every day. No, structure your time. Find the time, structure your time, and draw when you need to draw. Just make sure you're getting into that habit. And as long as you keep drawing at least regularly, and you're seeking advice and information from other artists and teachers, you know, you should be all right. But anyway, that's Yorick, and now I think it's about the time we start rounding this out. So let's do that now. Okay, so that was Yorick, and you'll be happy to know that I do actually think this is good enough to put up on sale on my website, www.johnsdarkart.com. So if you'd like to go pick up a print, it'll be available in 2 sizes and 2 prices. So A3s will be available for €75 and A4s will be available for €45. So if you'd like to go over there, pick yourself up a print, help support what we're doing, it'd be very much appreciated. Thank you very much. So anyway, as I was kind of alluding to towards the end of the last section, I was talking about advice and structuring your time. I've seen, especially on YouTube, because I do kind of dabble in watching a few different art channels on YouTube because it's one of my fields of interest, and I've seen things about like advice regarding when you should draw and, you know, how you should draw. Okay, first of all, if you want to get good, you have to be consistent. There is no getting around that fact. Now, do you need to draw every single day of your life? No, because I don't. And I don't believe that that's necessarily good advice anyway. I do feel that you need to find time and structure your time and keep it regular. Be disciplined about it, yes. Also, when it comes to information, like the amount of information there is available at your fingertips now is absolutely bloody ridiculous. You know, you can go online, there's YouTube tutorials up the wazoo. You can find courses online if you really want to. Would I advise you to pay for a course? Now, that is purely dependent on you and the resources you have at your disposal. If you're young and you're at school and you enjoy art, then, you know, just keep enjoying it. You know, and I think that advice works all the way through your life. I mean, if you're enjoying it, you'll keep doing it. But when you become an adult, because being an adult means having responsibilities and paying bills and, you know, going to work and all these important things that you need to do in order to have, you know, earn a living for yourself, finding the time to do that is really tough. So you have to make time. Now, I don't mean make time in the literal sense, shall we say. What I mean is, okay, in my week, when do I have the time to sit down and make art? Okay, I'm working from 9 o'clock till 5 p.m. I've got to get home, I've got to cook my dinner, I've got to go to the gym, or I've got to cook, you know, I've got to put the kids to bed, or, you know, there's any number of things in your day that you need to do. But if you can carve out a couple of hours in the week, if you can say to yourself, all right, then Saturday afternoon, I've got a couple of hours to myself. The kids are at the pool with Mrs. or with the husband or whatever. I've got a couple of hours to myself, so I can sit down and I can do some drawing, you know. And if you want to learn how to draw, now, do I think it's a good idea for me to show people how to draw, as in, you know, how I draw? I don't know, because I think I've got a lot of bad habits, and I don't think the way I work would necessarily work for everybody else. I think creating art is a very individual thing, but in terms of learning form, in terms of learning structure, in terms of learning light, in terms of color, learning color, you know, having some sort of structured education is a good idea. Maybe it might be an idea to find a life drawing class or an art class in the evenings or something like that. If you've got a local college or a local art class. I mean, there used to be a pub where I grew up in a place called Walthamstow in northeast London. There was a pub there called the Nag's Head that used to do life drawing classes on a Monday night, and I used to go in there, have a pint, do some drawing, have a couple more pints. When I finished, go home slightly wobbly. But yeah, I felt doing life drawing was incredibly useful because it showed me form, it showed me perspective, foreshortening, all these other different techniques. And we didn't just draw like pretty young females. We drew like all sorts, like old geezers, young men, old women, young women, short women, fat women, short men, fat men, big men. You know, it was a range of body types. So it wasn't necessarily sexual. And to be honest with you, when it came to doing life drawing for me, there's something weird that takes place where like your brain stops seeing that person as a person. You literally objectify them, not in a sexual sense, in a very literal sense. They are an object that you are drawing. So yeah, and in doing so, I learned a lot of useful information. I have done art classes in the past, but I always find someone telling me how to draw to be annoying because usually I feel I'm better than them. So yeah, I'm very stubborn about that. I'm pretty good at what I do. I don't need to be told how to do it. But again, that's me. I've got bad habits. I'm stubborn. Some would say confident, some say arrogant. I'm very sure of myself. So this is why I talk about how I do my work. You know, if it gives you inspiration or there's some ideas you see within my work that you may find useful, then, you know, fucking have at it, you know, use it. That's what one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. But would I necessarily teach you how to do what I do? No, because I don't think I'd be a great teacher in that regard. But in terms of like getting advice, I mean, hopefully you find advice on here that is useful. But you'll also find advice from other YouTubers or other art teachers or whatever else that is useful. It's about collating that information and making the best use of it that you can, and trying to do it as regularly as you can. Just try and be regular with it. Just try and collate the information that you need to collate. Do your art when you can do it, and you will find over time progression will happen and you will get better. You know, especially if you're starting out. I know it must seem like you're at the bottom of Mount Olympus, but you can climb it. And by the time you get to the top, you'll be really surprised about the progress you make. You know, what does it say? That the quickest way through you only know the quickest way through a forest is when you turn back. You know, you now know the route that you've taken, and when you look back through your work, you can see the progress that you've made. And I still feel like I'm making progress. I still feel that incrementally I'm still getting better. Do I still make mistakes? Yes, I do. Am I perfect? No. But I'm still learning. I'm still getting better. I'm still improving and iterating. And as long as I keep doing that, then I will continue to improve. And so will you. And on that note, hopefully that will inspire you to go out into the world and create whatever it is that you're going to create and share it with the world in whatever way you see fit. Anyway, my name's been John Clow. This has been John's Dark Art, and as always, you have been very welcome. Till next time.